So, how are people feeling about Django so far?
Good. Like it. I think it's, yeah. I think I'm getting it. The repetition stuff will help.
Yeah, that's honestly the biggest part. Best way to learn Django is repetition. And that's because Django and all frameworks are all about saying, hey, we have these conventions to follow. The more you follow them, the easier it will make your life. And of course, the flip side of that is if you don't follow them, we're going to make your life harder. Hopefully not too hard. But so that's why I was like, when I was considering, okay, should I go over the to-do list from yesterday? But then I saw the example for today is going to cover almost everything we did for the to-do list anyway. So we're just going to be starting from scratch, making new projects. And if you ever feel like you're rusty at anything, that's the goal. Like, since you've now made a CRUD application, you can just do that. Like, honestly, it's the best way to practice just saying, okay, I need to come up with a data model, give CRUD actions for all of them. You now have all the tools you need to make a fully functional website, which is pretty awesome, considering where you were 7 weeks ago. So we're going to be reviewing some of the skills we did already, and then adding a few more things on top of that. So I'm going to be starting a new Django project. I know I have Django installed, so I'm just going to say Django admin, start project. Let's call this one blog site. Not a valid name. Underscore. Yeah, I just did it all one word, but yeah, you can't do hyphens, as it turns out. I'm going to create a virtual environment. I'm just call it Ben.
While we're on the subject, I saw on Python docs that they're like deprecating Ben.
Really?
Yeah, it's like in the official doc since 3.7, 3.8.
Huh.
I was like, huh, what they
So heads up. He says they're going to deprecate Ben. Oh wow. See, like again, that's the thing about this industry is things are always changing. You got to stay on top of it. And now we got to figure out what people use instead of that. Thank you for the heads up on that. But for now, we're going to keep using it. I'm going to activate the virtual environment and install Django. Cool. I'm going to open this up, take a look inside, make sure everything's where it's supposed to be. Looks good so far. Let's see. Sometimes you open up the terminal inside VS Code and it's already in the virtual environment. Sometimes it isn't. So I'm going to make sure I am still in the virtual environment here. All right. So I'm going to be making a blog. So I'm going to start an app for that. So Python manage.py, start app, blog. There it is. And for now, we're just going to put one model into our blog. We're going to give it posts. So I'm going to say, give me a class called post, models.model. Let's say it has a title, models.starfield. Give it text. It's going to be models.textfield. And does anyone know the difference between text field and char field?
Like a text area versus input box.
Exactly. So if you ever want to save something that's larger than 200 characters, you go with the text field. So things like blog posts, articles, anything like that. Better use a text field than a char field.
Is it specifically the upper limit of the characters?
Yeah, I believe so. So yeah, text field is a different data type that allows you to save more characters.
Okay.
I think if you use a text area in your HTML, general text field,
It opens a bigger box when it loads the template later.
From the database. The database.
Yeah,
side
because
of
it's
that?
part of the Django forms. It reads that field and then it presents it through the template. It's a bigger box.
Cool. All right. I'm also going to give this thing a published date. Models.datetime field. And I'm going to allow this one to be optional. So I'm going to set blank equal to true and null equal to true. So if it doesn't have a date time, if it doesn't have a published date, it'll still be a valid option. And last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a toString method. So it's under str, just so it's easier to read. And it's going to return self.title. So this should all seem pretty familiar by now, right? Okay, let's migrate it.
Hey Noah,
Yes.
where does that dunder string, when you do that, where will that appear?
When you say where will it appear, can you clarify what you mean by that?
Yeah, like when that function runs, like what do we expect to see from it? Do we just expect to, like, if you put that to where your server's running, will it show just the title there, or will that be like in the console or somewhere like that?
So this is mainly for the console. It won't show. It won't show up in. Well, I suppose in that case, if I just said when I was in a template, if I did just post here, then I think what would show up would just be the title, because when I run this, it's the same thing as running post.str, same thing. So essentially, but we normally use this str method mainly for the console when we are running things, and we want to set, when we want to get a query set and we want to see what's inside of it. We don't want to see post object 1, post object 2. That's not very helpful. So that's why I just said we're overriding that method that says post object 1 with something that gives us the title, which is more descriptive for our human eyes. That answer your question?
It does, thank you.
No problem. All right, so let's try to make some migrations. So manage.py, make migrations for the blog. Uh-oh, what did I do wrong?
You forgot to put the app.
Yeah, I forgot to put this under my registered apps for the blog site. It's under settings.py, if I can find it. Let's try that again. So we've made our migration, and now we should be able to migrate it by Python manage.py migrate. All right, cool. So in theory, that means we should have in this case, it'll be a SQLite database with posts. And in the past, we've been using the Django extension shell plus in order to really check that out and interact with that database, right? And it's pretty helpful. But Django actually has some built-in tools that are a lot easier and honestly really, really cool. I think this is one of the coolest things about Django. So I'm going to go to, under blog, there's a thing called admin.py. And I'm going to say from.models, I'm going to import post. And I'm going to say admin.site.register post. And I'm going to, you're going to see what that does in just a second. I'm going to run the server, manage.py run server. All right, that all looks good. Now remember, when we look at URLs, there's already something there, right? Path admin slash. Has anyone actually visited localhost8000/admin?
Yeah.
What did you see?
Login. Splash screen. If you add a super user for admin, you can actually log in there and you can see groups of users to play with.
Exactly. So I'm going to go to localhost8000/admin, which has this cool login screen that I didn't make. Here it is. I don't seem to have a login yet, though, but I can make one. So to do that, like we said, we need to create something called a super user, essentially administrator. I can write in Python, manage.py, create super user. So I can get a username. Let's call it Noah. Email address, noah@platoon.org. Password 123456. Try it. Oh, hello. They actually have some validation on there that says the password's too short, it's too common, and it's entirely numeric. Which is nice of them to be looking out for me. But I'm going to create the user anyway. So now if I just type in Noah, password 123456. Thank you, Chrome. All right. So Django has this built-in administration site that we can use if we're registered as a super user. And as you can see, it's got things like groups and users, but it also has something called posts. There it is. Here's our blog app. Here are our posts. So this is a GUI that Django provides to really help us interact with our database so that we can mess around with it without having to worry about using the console and installing Django extensions or anything like that. It's a very useful tool, especially if we want to add posts to our site so that we have data models that we can actually show before we actually start making our templates. So let's add a few posts. So it's all got a bar chart area, a text area, a place to get the date. So let's say, like, Django rocks and you can too. Lauren, it's blah blah blah. Day is today. The time is now. We have an option to save and add another. It was added successfully. You may add another post below. So. You got a problem with it, you got a problem with me. This cool thing you can actually select the date or just hit today. Let's just save now. So we're done. So we got our two things, we can check them out. We can delete them, save and add another, save. So essentially we have full CRUD capability as an administrator, which is extremely useful.
So if you want to go post real quick, so that dunder_string, it'll show the title here, but if you don't have it, it'll just show like an object here as well.
Yeah, let's check that out. I didn't even know that.
Either guy.
So if I were to comment this out, might need to restart the server. Let's find out. Oh yeah. Yep. So that dunder string method is extremely useful. Yep. So I also like that it'll like automatically restart the server whenever it detects a change. That's a nice little feature that they have for us. So again,
What's on the little action drop down?
action drop down menu.
Or it's a little action.
Delete.
Oh, so I can do like
So you can do multiple stuff.
But Django admin only works for the built-in Django SQLite thing, or if we connect our Postgres, would we still have that?
Good question. Would this still work with Postgres? Postgres, or is it only with the SQLite database?
No, we're just Postgres.
It would be, yeah, it wouldn't be that useful if you can only use it with a SQLite database. So, and again, this is just essentially a fancier version of the shell plus that we've been using.
All right. What did you put in on that admin.py page?
Yeah, let's take a look. So I wrote admin, I had to import the model, and then admin.site.register, and then the name of the model.
How did that do?
So essentially that's it. So I still have access to the admin thing either way, but this menu right here would not exist.
Gotcha. That's where. Because I got in there before, I remember seeing the link.
Any other questions about the admin option?
How flexible is it for, I mean, like, do we want to, can you add functionality, expand the functionality before you go and create your own form interface to build more complex objects?
I'm not really sure exactly what you mean there.
I'll just follow along. And you might get there for us. Like so you have an authoring system for objects.
Mhm.
How flexible is it? And if not, if like it's pretty like this is what you get if you want to do basic CRUD, or like I gotta go build my own interface to like say we're gonna go during individual projects. Admin interface might be a good tool to like create content or objects with. I'm just curious. I'm just kind of trying to figure out.
So
like, yeah, if
I think generally speaking, what the admin gives us is just CRUD functionality. So we can add posts, we can update, we can look at posts, we can read the posts, we can update them. And we can delete them. I don't think the admin has many powers beyond that per se. For example, I don't think I could add an entirely new model from this. I don't think you're allowed to do that.
I can't have like features. Can't have like this feature.
Yeah. So the admin's purpose is essentially for curating the database, and along with groups and users, which is something we'll get into another day.
Okay.
Cool. So
thanks. No problem. Oh, it can do more than one. So if you did like post comma user, like it would in your admin import.
yeah, I could. So I can. I think I'd have to just write admin.site.register another model as well.
Okay.
But yes, I can register multiple models for the admin.
Nice.
I was just going to ask how far do we here now that we've got this general like login authentication? Is it to have people be able to log in, like in this case with the blog site, log in with their own username, create their own blogs, but not mess with anyone else? It's like how far are we off from that with what we just did here?
Is that what we're doing tomorrow?
Yeah, we're getting an authentication tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, authentication and authorization is, I think that starts tomorrow, and that's when we talk about creating users, registering users, and detailing how much and detecting if someone is logged in. That's all going to be happening soon. In that case, I'm going to move on. We're going to continue. So I'm going to, first off, I want to make sure that in my URLs, I have like a namespace for posts. So I'm going to include in here. And I'm going to add a new path, posts, which is going to include blog.urls. There isn't currently a blog.urls document. We need to make it. Touch blog. Touch blog. One second. Where am I? don't know why it's not letting me touch blog slash urls.py. There we go. I'm gonna import from Django.urls. I'm gonna import path. I'm gonna import views. A URL patterns array, and set up a path for just our home page for now. So with that blank URI should go to an index page. We'll call it views.postList, and we'll name that post list. And then under views, we need to make sure that we have something called post list, which takes request as an argument. And we need to get all of our posts. So you can say posts equals, we need to import the post model. So from .models, we need to import the post class. And then post is going to equal, well, how do we get all of our posts?
Posts. Objects.
Yeah, we do post.objects.all. If we wanted to order them as well, we could say post.objects.order by. Say we want to order them by publish date, for example, we could do that. So there's many different ways you can do this. It's all up to you.
Is the all implicit there?
Yeah, so order by returns everything in a certain order, and which does mean you get everything as well.
Would that be a good idea to order by that, since that's not very good?
Good point. Yeah, so it's up to you, honestly. I think here, I don't plan on having any posts that don't have a date field, but they might. So I'm going to keep it this way for now, and if it breaks, we'll know where it broke. And we're going to return render. Have a request. That's going to go to log/postlist.html, neither of which exists yet. And we're going to give it data with posts being posts. So now we need to make a folder for templates, and inside templates we need to make one for called blog. So I'm not touch. I'm going to make directory blog/templates. Oh, it's just blog, not blog. And then I'm going to make directory blog/template/blog. And then inside of that, I'm going to say touch blog/templates. Not sure why my autocomplete isn't working. I'm going to be making post list.html. There it is. So let's set up a separate yep. So I'm going to make a div. Oops, not a directory, a div. Inside that, I'll put an h1. I'm going to put a link here that's going to go to, that's essentially going to be a link back to the home page, which is this. So href is going to equal URL post list, which is the name of that route. My blog. Next, we're going to loop through all of our posts. So for post in posts. We'll put each one inside a div. Put the title inside an h2, and also make this a link. For now, we're not going to put a link there because we don't have a detail page yet, but I know it's going to be a link eventually. So this is actually a good point. I could do post.title here, But if our string method works the way I think it does, we might be able to do post like this. So let's see what happens. Also gonna put the publish date. So I'm gonna say published post.published date. And let's put all the content as well. Post.text. And we need to end the for loop by saying end for. Right. Is all of this being familiar, or do you have any questions on how this part works? Okay, let's test this out. So the cool thing is they've got a view site link right here. Click on that. Can't be reached, but we're trying to go to /post. Let's see what happens. See if the server has anything saying. No module named blog.urls. Uh-oh.
Oh, you didn't. Did you enter your URL?
I'm going to try restarting the server. Sometimes whoops, sometimes. Okay, yeah, I think we just need to restart the server. There we go. So we got a log. We can a link here. These links just go back to the page we're already on. Got the publish date, and yeah, the title worked just by using the string method. So we won't always be able to do that, but in this case we could. So all in all, what's the problem with this site? Sorry. There's no styling. It's ugly as sin. So let's fix that, shall we? So yeah, let's add some bootstrap.
All right.
Get out of here.
Time for all that vanilla.
So I'm going to copy and paste some of the links that gives us access to Bootstrap. And I'm also going to make sure that we have our own CSS stuff as well. So to do that, I'm going to have to make some more files and folders. So under blog, I'm going to make another directory. I'm going to call this one static. And inside static, I'm going to make one called CSS. There we go. And inside blog static CSS, I'm going to make our style sheet. It's going to be called blog.css. There we go. Let's add some basic stuff for now. H1A, H2A, so all the links that are inside H1s and H2s. Let's change the color and a little more pleasant. I have access to the cool color picker right now. I'm just gonna do one I know works because I like this one. Nice little orange color. I'm also gonna add some padding to the body. Get a little off from there, so 15 px, let's say. Now, in order to get this style sheet into my HTML doc, I need to do something. I need to do something a little bit different. I actually need to make an HTML tag and make sure everything goes inside of that. And the reason we need that HTML tag is because above the HTML tag, we need to have this thing that says load static. So it gives access to the static folder. And then in the head, I can have a style sheet, and the href is going to be static css/blog.css. So if I go back to this, refresh the page, it's a lot nicer already.
You made it orange.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was too. Weird. Take a look at that CSS thing again.
That's what I've been running into too.
Well,
Like the default bootstrap.
Yeah.
Yeah, just bootstrap.
yeah, well, I'm not going to complain about it too much.
Or maybe you have to restart the server.
You always try that. When in doubt. There we go. More in line with what I wanted. So let's say I want to bring in some custom fonts as well. Has anyone used Google Fonts before?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty fun.
You can spend hours.
Yeah, and I have. If I want to use Oxanium here, just click on that, and they give us the link right here that we can just put into our style sheet, into our HTML doc, that is. And then they also give us the thing that says font family Oxanium. So let's give that to our H1s and H2s as well. We're gonna have to restart the server again. I don't think that font should be there. There we go. Right. Now, finally, we added Bootstrap, but we haven't actually done any Bootstrap to it yet. So let's do that right now. So it's going to take a little bit of reorganizing here. I'm going to give everything a few classes while I'm at it. So I'm going to give this one the class page header. And I'm just going to, let's see here. I'm going to do a div up here. This is going to be a container. And inside of that, I'm going to make a row.
Now, are all these class names specific to Bootstrap?
Yes, they are. So in order to use Bootstrap's grid system, you need to have a div called container, and inside that, you have a div called row, at least one. And then inside that, I can set up columns by using a class called COL, and then I have div options for small, medium, and large, and how wide it's going to be. I'm going to do COL MD8. And inside of that, that's where I'm going to actually start moving this stuff. And let's give each of these divs a class. Let's call it post. Yeah, let's take a look at how this works. This looks nice. That's a little bit nicer. Yeah, so there's a whole lot of other styling I could do. I don't want to get too deep into it because CSS styling is very subjective in many ways. So I don't want to tell you this is how you CSS style. You already know how to use a CSS sheet. But this is actually a good chance if anyone has any questions about CSS styling right now, since I'm on the subject.
Can you go to where you link the CSS file
Yes.
in the HTML? Why did you put the reference on the inside that Jenga thing? Static CSS.
So this is again one of those things about conventions. One of those Django conventions is Django doesn't have didn't give us a built-in folder called static/CSS, but this is usually how it is done, is giving us a static folder where we'll have CSS, and also probably where we'd also put JavaScript files too if you wanted to have front-end JS working. Load static up here just says, I want this HTML document to have this template to have access to that folder. And this is just linking us to this particular style sheet in the static CSS folder. So we may also, like, if we had a JavaScript thing, we might say, static JS/app.js or something. Okay, so this is all pretty cool and all, right? What's the problem with just having all of this styling kind of all in this one place? What problems could we run into?
So if you have a new app.
We have a new app, or what if just a new page?
Maybe just duplicating code.
Yeah, exactly. I could, copy all of this, the load static HTML, all of the stuff in the head, all of this, but I wanted to make sure that everything in my site had a consistent look to it. But that's not very dry. It's kind of annoying too. So one thing we can do is we can actually essentially create a base page that everything else will kind of load into, and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to touch and do blog/templates /blog. We're going to call this one base.html. I'm going to copy over a lot of this stuff into that. We're just going to copy everything and then get rid of the things I don't want. All right, so I'm going to be keeping the HTML, the head, all of the links to the style sheets. Also keep this page header here. In fact, I'm going to keep everything except for the actual content. I don't want to have the posts here. I'm going to get rid of this stuff, everything inside the for loop. So now I just have a basic HTML skeleton with a link at the top to my blog. And inside of this particular div, I'm going to say something that says block content. And then after that, end block. And now I'm going to change post list a bit. So let's see here. I'm going to make sure I copy this. Then I'm going to delete everything, including this. I'm going to put up a line up here that says extends blog/base.html. And then I'm going to put another thing here that says block content and block. And then I'm going to paste this here. So if I did this right, it should look exactly the same. It looks exactly the same. So what I've done here is by putting this thing here that says block content, I'm telling this HTML file, there's going to be other stuff pasted in right here. And by having block content here, I'm saying, all right, this block content is going to be going into blog based on HTML. So right now it looks exactly the same, nothing changed. But as we add more templates, we can keep on saying extend blog based on HTML, and then add just block content here. And so for each page, we only need to write the things specific to that page. And all of the styling and all of things like navigation bars and things like that can all live in base.html. Any questions about how this happened? How we made this happen?
Are the specific words block and content the convention? Like there's no, if you were going to do this multiple times, how would you adjust that?
So if I was going to do it multiple times, meaning if I had multiple things using the base.html as a template, correct. Then I would just keep on saying block content on every one of my templates. Saying whatever the block content is goes right there.
Yeah, there's another
Discern the difference. Is it like linear? Based on
Yeah. So that comes from. So when we get to not that one, but the other URLs. I know we were in the right one. Dang it. One sec. So our URLs thing says go to post list. So we do. Post list says I want to render blog/postlist.html. It goes to postlist.html. And postlist.html says, all right, here's my block content, but I'm extending this thing right here.
Okay.
So essentially, this HTML document is connecting back to this one, saying, put my content right here, and include all of this other stuff.
Well, so you did that dynamically, right? But then what if later on down the page you want to add another block? How would, could you do multiple areas?
Yeah.
I'm not sure actually. Let's see if I can find that quickly. Good question. So it did Django template multiple block content, multiple blocks. Let's try that. So I'd say it's putting that into base.html with this process. So they link to another one. Oh, okay. This is a very big solution here. Let's see if they have node tags, active request home. That's not really exactly what I want. Let's see if we can find another one. Same name in one template, allowing multiple blocks in one template. Let's see what this Google group says. Oh, dang.
Generic brand? A knockoff?
And it's no one.
Wow.
Oh, like happened to
universe.
Bizarro world.
Is there a moment or something? Remember I went to summer camp with a guy named Noah, and I kept on getting confused whenever people asked about him. All right, so they got something here like the obvious thing would have been this template, block title, block body, and block, but this one works because a block of the same name can't be defined twice in the same block.
Oh, it is in block content. Is content like a changeable name? So could it just be block something else?
Yeah, it's easy enough to find out, right? Call it
Block val.
block fun. We call this one block fun as well. Let's see what happens. Yeah.
Okay, so
So-
I'll separate the blocks.
Yeah, so it's a change. So block is just saying, okay, this is going to be a block, and then this is just the name of it.
Maybe we should restart the server just to be 100% sure.
Well, HTML, you
It's just.
I think it'll be so. It looks like we could say in here if we wanted to have one called block content, another one called block fun,
Okay.
then we could do that.
can put it in different sections.
Yeah. And so that would be useful, for example, if we had, like if this were not included everything, this was its own another block, and we wanted different nav bars depending on what page you're on or something like that, then we could do that here.
Oh, okay.
So block navigation or something like that.
So, but if you do add another block in the base, but you don't actually use it in all of it, would it throw errors if if you create a block in the base but don't actually use it for something?
Let's find out. Block experimental. And we can also restart the server just to make sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it looks like that's just, you're saying reserve this space, and if nothing called block experimental is there, it won't be a problem. That's what it looks like. But we could write something here called block experimental. It could be,
Oh, cool.
so even though it's below everything else in this HTML page, since I put it out in this block, it says, okay, put that block here, where I told it to.
Oh, really nice.
Good questions, everybody. All right. So actually, so let's see, it's 9:40. We can go a little bit longer, I guess. All right. So let's kind of extend this out. I want to make sure, I want to get individual pages going on here. So actually, so if I wanted a detail thing, does anyone know where I would start?
Detail meaning specific to that page?
Yeah, if I want to get the details of one blog post.
Get the URL.
Yeah, so you can make a URL pattern. And what would we call this one? This is, we want to get specifically one of them. Yep.
Grab it by the ID.
Yep. Int post ID. I'm going to go to views, post detail, give it a name of post detail. Then we can go to views, make sure, yeah, it's already telling us blog.views is no attribute post detail. And this one is going to take two arguments. It's going to take a request, and it's going to take a post ID. And there's a method we could use here to help us out. Let's get object or 404. Say post equals get object or 404. Post ID equals post ID. And then we can say we have to return render request. We're going to be going to blog/post detail .html, and post is going to be post. It's reloading, but of course now I need to make sure that I've actually got a template there to catch it. Post detail.html. Oops. Make sure that matches. So remember, in this case, we can just set up our block content right now because we know that's what's going into our base. And block. And we could do something like, you know, div class equals post.
Do we need the extend?
We do, thank you. Got extends blog/base.html. That's how they know to talk to each other. And we could do something like, if, since we made publish date optional, we could say if post.publish date. And div, we have our h2 with post.title, or just post, because that's what our string method does. Post.text down here. So I should be able to go to post/1. There it is. And I can click on this link to go back. I'm also going to change these links so they actually go to the individual one. So what's the helper I can put in here to make that, to link to an individual post?
Post detail.
Yep. So we start by saying URL, and then post detail. And then we want to give it a particular post. We're going to say post ID is going to equal post.id. So now here, cool, right? Very cool. All right. So what I'm going to say now is let's take a 12-minute break. So okay, now let's take a 12-minute break. So be back here at 9:59, and we're going to add some forms to this.
Like the URL.